Welcome to my channel. Value quarter dollar. The United States quarter dollar, issued in 1965, represents a pivotal moment in American monetary history, both in terms of its physical composition and its symbolic inscriptions. Prior to 1965, U.S. quarters were composed of 90% silver, but due to rising silver prices and a nationwide coin shortage, the United States Mint transitioned the quarter to a clad composition, specifically a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel. This change was authorized under the Coinage Act of 1965, marking the end of silver in circulating quarters. Despite this major shift in material, the coin retained its classic design featuring George Washington on the obverse, a portrait originally created by John Flanagan in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. The inscriptions on the 1965 quarter carry deep historical and philosophical meaning. The phrase, "In God We Trust," prominently displayed on the obverse, became the official motto of the United States in 1956, although it had appeared on coins much earlier, first authorized during the American Civil War as a reflection of the nation's desire for divine guidance during a time of crisis. The placement of liberty, above Washington's head, and the date, 1965, below further emphasize the enduring values of freedom and continuity. On the reverse side, the inscription, E Pluribus Unum, meaning out of many one, reflects the unity of the original 13 colonies into a single nation. This Latin motto was proposed in 1776 by the Second Continental Congress and remains a powerful symbol of American identity. The reverse design also features a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows, and an olive branch, symbols of war and peace, based on the Great Seal of the United States. Surrounding the eagle are olive branches, reinforcing the theme of peace. The coin's edge is reeded, a feature originally intended to prevent the shaving of precious metal from coins when they were made of gold or silver. Although the 1965 quarter no longer contains silver, the reeded edge was retained for consistency and to maintain public trust. From a numismatic perspective, the 1965 quarter is significant not because of rarity, millions were minted, but because it marks the beginning of the modern era of U.S. coinage. Collectors often distinguish between pre-1965 silver quarters and post-1965 clad quarters. While the intrinsic metal value of the 1965 coin is minimal, its historical importance is considerable. It represents a moment when economic pressures forced a tangible change in everyday currency, reflecting broader trends in global metal markets and domestic fiscal policy. In summary, the 1965 United States quarter dollar is far more than a simple 25-cent coin. It embodies a transition in material composition, carries inscriptions rooted in national identity and historical events, and preserves a design that honors one of the most important figures in American history. Its phrases, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and "E Pluribus Unum," continue to express ideals that have shaped the United States since its founding, making the coin a small but powerful artifact of American heritage. The next top. The 1966 United States quarter dollar is a fascinating piece of American numismatic history, representing both a transitional era in coin production and a continuation of long-standing national symbolism. Issued by the United States Mint, this coin belongs to the Washington Quarter Series, which was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington. By 1966, however, the quarter had undergone significant changes due to economic pressures, particularly the rising cost of silver. Prior to 1965, quarters were composed of 90% silver, but beginning in 1965, the composition shifted to a copper-nickel clad structure. Specifically, a pure copper core sandwiched between layers of copper-nickel alloy. This change was implemented during a nationwide coin shortage, when the intrinsic value of silver coins began to exceed their face value, leading to hoarding and circulation problems. As a result, the 1966 quarter contains no silver, making it less valuable in terms of precious metal content, but still important historically. The obverse, front, of the 1966 quarter features the left-facing profile of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. Above Washington's head appears the word liberty, a fundamental American ideal reflecting freedom and independence, while the phrase, "In God We Trust," is inscribed to the left of his neck. This motto, "In God We Trust," has appeared on U.S. coins since the 19th century and became the official national motto in 1956 during the Cold War, symbolizing a contrast between American religious values and the atheistic stance of communist states. Below Washington's portrait is the date 1966, indicating the year of minting. Notably, quarters from 1965 to 1967 do not carry mint marks, as the U.S. Mint removed them temporarily to discourage collectors from hoarding coins during the shortage. The reverse back of the coin features a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, perched on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and readiness to defend the nation. Beneath the arrows are two olive branches, representing peace. Above the eagle is the inscription, United States of America, and below it is the denomination quarter dollar. Arching above the eagle is the Latin phrase E pluribus unum, which translates to out of many one. This motto reflects the unification of the original 13 colonies into a single nation and continues to symbolize the diversity and unity of the United States. The combination of arrows and olive branches mirrors imagery found on the Great Seal of the United States, reinforcing themes of both peace and military preparedness. From a production standpoint, the 1966 quarter was struck in large quantities, with hundreds of millions produced to address the coin shortage. Because of this high mintage and the absence of silver, most 1966 quarters are not considered rare or highly valuable in circulated condition. However, coins in uncirculated or mint state condition, especially those with sharp details and minimal wear, can hold higher value among collectors. Additionally, certain error coins, such as those with double strikes, off-center designs, or die cracks, may be worth significantly more depending on their uniqueness and condition. The design of the Washington quarter remained largely unchanged until 1999, when the U.S. Mint introduced the 50-state quarters program, which altered the reverse design to feature different states. However, the 1966 quarter retains the classic and enduring imagery that defined American coinage for decades. Its inscriptions, Liberty, In God We Trust, and E Pluribus Unum, serve not only as decorative elements but as reflections of the nation's identity, values, and historical journey. In summary, while the 1966 quarter dollar may not be rare in terms of material or mintage, it stands as a meaningful artifact of a pivotal time in U.S. monetary history, bridging the gap between silver coinage and modern clad currency while preserving the symbolic language that defines the American spirit, the next top. The 1972 United States quarter dollar is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, one of the most recognizable coins in American currency. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the design was still in use by 1972 with only minor adjustments over time. The obverse front of the coin features a left-facing portrait of Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. Around this portrait are several inscriptions. The word Liberty appears prominently at the top edge, while the national motto, In God We Trust, is positioned to the lower left of Washington's neck. The year 1972 is stamped at the bottom, indicating the year of minting. This layout reflects a standard design that had been consistent for decades, emphasizing both national identity and historical continuity. On the reverse back of the 1972 quarter, the design centers on a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, also created by John Flanagan. The eagle is perched on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing readiness and strength, while beneath it are two olive branches representing peace. Above the eagle's head is the Latin motto, E Pluribus Unum, which translates to out of many one, reflecting the unity of the original colonies into a single nation. Surrounding the eagle are the inscriptions, United States of America, along the top and quarter dollar, along the bottom, clearly identifying the issuing country and denomination. The lettering style is bold and balanced, intended to be both functional and symbolic. The 1972 quarter was minted in 3 primary locations operated by the United States Mint: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a small d; and San Francisco, marked with an S, typically for proof coins. By this time, quarters were no longer made of silver. Since 1965, they have been struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This change was made due to rising silver prices and the need to preserve precious metal reserves. The coin weighs approximately 5.67 grams and has a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, with a reeded, ridged edge designed to prevent counterfeiting and metal shaving. In terms of production, hundreds of millions of quarters were struck in 1972, making it a relatively common coin in circulation. Philadelphia alone produced over 200 million, while Denver struck even more. San Francisco produced far fewer, but those were mostly proof coins intended for collectors, featuring sharper details and a mirror-like finish. Because of the high mintage, most 1972 quarters found today are not particularly rare, especially in circulated condition. However, coins in uncirculated condition, or those with exceptional preservation, graded by professional services, can carry higher value. Additionally, collectors sometimes look for minting errors, such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, or unusual planchets, which can significantly increase a coin's worth. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "E Pluribus Unum" each carry historical and cultural significance. "In God We Trust" was officially adopted as the national motto of the United States in 1956, during a period when the country sought to distinguish itself ideologically during the Cold War. Its presence on coins dates back even earlier, first appearing during the Civil War era. "E Pluribus Unum", on the other hand, has been used since the founding of the nation and originally appeared on early American coinage, symbolizing unity among the states. Together, these mottos reflect both the spiritual and political ideals embedded in American identity. From a collector's standpoint, the 1972 quarter is often included in complete date and mint collections of Washington quarters. While not rare, it serves as a representative example of post-1965 clad coinage and the enduring Washington design before it was replaced in 1999 by the 50-state quarters program. Some enthusiasts also appreciate it as a historical artifact from the early 1970s, a time marked by social change, economic challenges, and global political tension. Even though its face value remains 25 cents, its educational and collectible value can be higher depending on condition and rarity factors. In summary, the 1972 United States quarter dollar is a standard yet historically meaningful coin that combines artistic design, national symbolism, and practical function. Featuring George Washington on the obverse and a powerful eagle motif on the reverse, along with the mottos "In God We Trust" and "E Pluribus Unum", it represents both the heritage and unity of the United States. Though widely circulated and generally common, it remains an important piece for collectors and a tangible link to American history and identity. The next top. The 1983 Washington quarter dollar from the United States of America is a fascinating coin both for collectors and for those interested in American history and symbolism. This coin belongs to the long-running Washington quarter series, first introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington, the first president of the United States. By 1983, the quarter had already become one of the most widely circulated coins in the country, used daily in commerce, vending machines, and public transit. The P Mint mark indicates that this particular coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most important minting facilities in the nation. Interestingly, 1983 marked a somewhat unusual year in U.S. coinage history because the U.S. Mint did not release official uncirculated sets for collectors, making high-quality examples of 1983 quarters more difficult to obtain and thus more desirable among numismatists. The coin is composed of a clad mixture, specifically copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core, which had been the standard composition for quarters since 1965, when silver was removed from circulating coinage due to rising bullion costs. On the obverse, front, of the coin, you will find a left-facing portrait of George Washington, originally designed by sculptor John Flanagan. Above Washington's head is the word Liberty, representing one of the core values of the United States. To the left of his portrait appears the national motto, "In God We Trust", a phrase that reflects the country's historical and cultural acknowledgement of faith and was officially adopted as the national motto in 1956 during the Cold War era. Below the bust is the date 1983, and to the right of the ponytail ribbon is the small P Mint mark, identifying its origin in Philadelphia. The reverse back of the coin features a heraldic eagle with wings spread, clutching arrows and an olive branch, symbols of readiness for war and desire for peace, respectively. This design is inspired by the Great Seal of the United States. Above the eagle is the Latin phrase, "E Pluribus Unum", which translates to "out of many one", signifying the unity of the original 13 colonies forming a single nation. Surrounding the eagle are the inscriptions United States of America and quarter dollar, indicating the issuing country and denomination. From a collector's standpoint, the 1983 P quarter is especially notable because many coins from this year entered circulation quickly and were heavily used, leading to a scarcity of well-preserved examples. Coins in mint state condition, those that show little to no wear, are significantly more valuable than worn specimens, and uncirculated rolls or coins with strong luster and minimal contact marks are particularly sought after. Additionally, some collectors search for error varieties, such as off-center strikes or doubled dies, although these are relatively rare for this specific year. The absence of official mint sets in 1983 also means that collectors often rely on coins pulled from circulation, adding an element of challenge and excitement to finding high-grade pieces. Despite being a modern-clad coin with no intrinsic silver value, the 1983 P quarter holds historical importance as part of the broader narrative of U.S. coinage and reflects the economic and cultural environment of the early 1980s. Overall, it is a small but meaningful artifact that combines artistry, symbolism, and everyday utility, making it a valuable piece for both casual collectors and serious numismatists. The next top. The 1990 D United States quarter dollar is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, one of the most recognizable coins in American history. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the design used in 1990 still followed the classic style created by sculptor John Flanagan. The D Mint mark on the 1990 coin indicates it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the United States Mint's major production facilities responsible for circulating coinage. On the obverse front of the coin, you will find a left-facing portrait of George Washington with the inscription Liberty arched above his head, the phrase, "In God We Trust," placed to the left, and the date 1990 below. The motto, "In God We Trust," has appeared on U.S. coins since the 19th century and became the official national motto in 1956, symbolizing a historical expression of faith and national identity. On the reverse back of the 1990 D quarter, the design features a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, perched on a bundle of arrows and framed by two olive branches, representing strength and peace. Above the eagle appears United States of America, while below it is the denomination quarter dollar. The Latin phrase e pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, is displayed above the eagle's head, reflecting the union of the original states into one nation. In terms of composition, the 1990 D quarter is made of a clad metal structure introduced in 1965, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This replaced earlier silver compositions due to rising silver prices. The coin weighs approximately 5.67 grams and has a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, with a reeded edge designed both for durability and as an anti-counterfeiting feature historically used to prevent clipping of precious metals. The mintage of the 1990 D quarter was very high, with hundreds of millions produced, making it a common coin in circulation rather than a rare collectible. However, collectors still seek out high-grade uncirculated examples or coins with minting errors, such as off-center strikes or doubled dies, which can significantly increase value. In average circulated condition, the coin is generally worth only its face value of 25 cents, but pristine uncirculated versions graded by professional services may carry a modest premium depending on condition and eye appeal. The 1990 D quarter belongs to a transitional period in U.S. coinage before the introduction of the 50-state quarters program in 1999, which dramatically changed the reverse designs of quarters to celebrate each U.S. state. As such, the 1990 design represents the final decade of the traditional Washington quarter reverse that had remained largely unchanged since 1932. Collectors often appreciate these coins for their historical continuity and classic symbolism rather than rarity. The inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and E Pluribus Unum together encapsulate key elements of American identity, freedom, faith, and unity, making the coin not just a medium of exchange, but also a small piece of cultural and historical expression. Even though it is a common coin, the 1990 D Washington quarter remains an important part of numismatic collections, educational discussions, and everyday transactions, reflecting both the artistry and practicality of modern U.S. coinage.